drop off our imagery, which was physical imagery on a roll of acetate. And then while we were dropping that off, we would get hot refuel. In other words, we'd have one engine running while we were getting refueled, and then we'd take off from Rafa and fly back to our base. So 6 hours in the mission area, and then transit time, up, refuel. The total was about 9 hours of actual flight time for a single mission.
And what kind of altitude were you running?
We would typically fly, they told us the best altitude above the ground for our imagery was around 8,000 feet, so allowing for height above sea level. We typically would fly about 10,000 feet on a nice, slow and steady, gyro-stabilized track. If anybody wanted to shoot us down, we were probably the easiest target they could ever think of.
Well, you were running without lights, I would assume, right?
No, we didn't go blackout, because one of the first things we did in the air war is we took that database of all the radar transmitters, and the Air Force, Navy, and Marines went out and dropped a radar-seeking missile on every single one of their radars. So they couldn't see us, really, and they couldn't acquire us. I guess they could have shot at us with small arms from the ground, or maybe anti-aircraft cannons if they had it, but they wouldn't have any radar guidance. They could shoot at us with heat-seeking missiles if they had them, but we carried an onboard infrared jammer, so would kind of make heat-seeking missiles ineffective. So close as I came to getting shot down by air defense was when I had the wrong code in my transmitter for identification, friend or foe, and the Syrians were lighting me up, and with a acquisition radar, so I quickly switched to the correct code, and they ceased their but the Syrians were actually on our side at that time, and so that would have been friendly fire.
And your airspeed was about what?
Well, they wanted a ground speed for the best imagery of somewhere around 180 nautical miles per hour, 180 knots. And you're flying at 10,000 feet, 180 knots is an indicated airspeed of somewhere around 135 to 140. And if you had a little bit of a tailwind, why that would pick up your ground speed a bit. And so we were sort of really kind of on the ragged edge of a stall.
And you were, I guess at that point, if you were going up around 10, then you were requiring oxygen too, right?
We had oxygen on board. We typically didn't use it. We would have the oxygen mask kind of sitting in our lap, and whenever we would feel a need for a little bit of oxygen, we'd pick up the mask and take a few sips, put it back down.
Well, we're going to take our first break, Phil, and we'll be back with Phil Forsberg right after this.
If you live to serve and want to make an even bigger difference, consider joining the U.S. Army. With training in fields like medical care, linguistics, and engineering, an Army career can amplify your efforts with humanitarian opportunities all over the world. Plus, you'll receive competitive pay and incredible benefits, so you'll be taken care of, too. Learn more at GoArmy.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, join me, Roger B., every Tuesday at 1400 hours right here on America's Web Radio for the Locked and Loaded Show. We will talk about guns, weapons, ammo, gun accessories, prepping, and so much more. So be sure to join us every Tuesday at 1400 or 2 p.m. for Locked and Loaded on America's Web Radio.
thank you for listening. And you're listening to Remembering Desert Shield and Desert Storm, and we've got Phil Forsberg on, who was a pilot, a fixed-wing pilot, I might add, the Mohawk. Phil, when I was at Fort Ord, and this was right in the middle of Vietnam, they had come out, and it was a fixed wing, but it was so quiet. It was like, at best, a car passing on the road. How loud was the Mohawk?
Well, it was the loudest aircraft in the Army inventory at the time. It certainly wasn't a stealth aircraft to sneak up on people. I had an air traffic controller in Oklahoma one time. When he looked down at his strip and he saw that I was a Army OB-1, he said to me, is that a Mohawk, sir? I said, yes, sir. He said, you know we called that in Vietnam? I said, nope. He said, we called it Whistling Death. I guess you only hear them after they passed over.
Well, this plane was incredible. When we were out doing survival, escape, and evasion, I don't know what it turned out to be. It could have wound up being a Mohawk, because they were flying over us, trying to spot us, and so it may have been either a Mohawk or something similar to it, first generation or something. Who knows? And,
I think what you're talking about is a Schweitzer. It was sort of like a powered glider. Had an engine, but it didn't need a lot of thrust to stay aloft. It had a very high aspect ratio wing, and it was basically built off the airframe of a glider, but it had its own power, but it didn't need much.
Just think what they'd do with it today. They'd put a battery in it and do a motor instead of an engine to
Take
turn
the
the
pilot out.
Yeah. But anyway, so you'd go on these missions, and you'd replace whoever was there, and would you have?
And we'd stay until we got replaced.
And you'd have radio contact with them, I assume.
Yep. Yeah, we had standard signals operating instructions. Would assign us our frequencies for the day. And that'll all be covered in our briefing.
And did the Air Force have your back when you would go in if it did wind up to get hot?
We had, we're flying these aircraft, and everybody's out trying to hurt people with their various aircraft. And one thing we didn't want to do was hurt each other. So we weren't really flying on, like an instrument route structure like they have here in the States. So the Air Force flew their 707, the AWACS aircraft, and they were supposed to, we checked in with them, and they were supposed to provide us radar separations from other aircraft at the time. And they did a pretty good